And I was walking down the stairs with the pregnancy stick and I just turned it round and my mum went, oh. And I was like, I haven't told Matt yet. And my mum ran in the kitchen and went, Lacey's pregnant.
I like this. I'll take
I was
this.
going to tell him. And Matt being Matt's so laid back. He was like, oh, great. I became quite neurotic about the pregnancy because I was so terrified of losing it.
Yeah.
And how I never wanted to go back to that place. So I text Richard after I'd given birth. I said, don't worry, I'll be in next week just to film those last few scenes. So I went in for a morning just to finish.
I mean, what was that like?
I mean,
having two little...
That was mad.
2 under 17 months. You're still, you've given birth.
I know, but I'd had that lovely sleep because I couldn't...
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. I am very excited because I've been watching today's guest on our screens for a long, long time. She just told me it's 20 years since she first joined EastEnders as Stacey Slater. I'm so excited. It's Lacey Turner, mum of 3, and mum of 3, the third being 11 weeks old.
Yes.
Well done. Not even just for being at the house, but well done for looking so amazing as well. You look very put together.
Oh, well, when I get dressed, my son says, where are you going? Because he only ever sees me in a tracksuit.
How are you feeling? Because I do feel like 11 weeks, you could potentially be coming out of the storm of it, of a newborn, or are you still feeling very much like you're juggling?
Do you know what? It's so weird because I don't feel like I've had a baby.
Really?
I have really quick births.
Really?
Yeah, so Dusty was 6 hours from door to coming out. Trilby was 3 from door to coming out. And she was an hour and a half.
No!
So, sure, I mean, listen, I'm not taking anything away from giving birth.
I mean, if you had a fourth,
mental.
it would just slip out.
Well, I think I'd sneeze. It would just fall out. Oh, God.
But let's talk about you now. Are you sleeping?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, she gets up at 2. See, the thing with the third is they have to fit in around the others. Yeah. So she can't do 7, 11, 3 because they got to get up at 7.
So funny because Max was the same. I wonder if there's something, I mean, there'll be mums of 3 that are going, no, that's not true. Mine are waking up. But I wonder if there is something in that of kind of going, well, this is, or maybe we're less.
I think so.
Frantic as we were with the other 2.
Well, they breathe the first one and you go,
yeah.
And then you check them. And then the third one, they sort of go, and you think, oh, they're waking up. All right, I'm coming. You're just sort of more relaxed, aren't you? Because you sort of know what those sounds mean and you get what all the different cries mean. So it is, I found the jump from 1 to 2 quite shocking.
Yeah.
But not 2 to 3. She just sort of...
I felt like I enjoyed the third a lot
yeah.
more in the early days. Like that less feeling like I had to do certain things.
Yes.
Just sit and hold him.
Yeah. And if they don't go to sleep, do you know what? They will eventually.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. Whereas the first one, you're like, but it says on the paper that you've got to go to sleep at 9:30.
Said.
You're like a mad woman. And oh my God, it's only been 40 minutes. Run up the stairs. Whereas the third one, you're like, oh God, you're up. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the fact that you've been in EastEnders for 20 years. That's ridiculous.
I know. I don't feel old enough. I don't feel like I've been there 20 years.
But then the Slaters feel like my childhood. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they've always been around.
They started, the Slaters come in 2000 and I came in 2004.
Right.
And I remember watching them all. I mean, like the iconic scenes between like Jess and Michelle and I remember sitting watching it on the telly and I actually had a market stall on the corner of where the studio is.
Well, let's talk, because you were a massive EastEnders fan. You lived right next door to it. You could see part of the set from your bedroom window.
Yeah.
And did you always know that you wanted to act or did you always know that you just wanted to be in EastEnders?
No, I'd always danced and, I went to a dance school and a drama class on a Wednesday night and I'd always sort of loved that whole world. I did musical theatre when I was younger. I did a bit of dancing at the Albert Hall and like, bits and bobs. And then by the time I was 13, I just sort of didn't bother.
Yeah.
Found boys and going out and stuff like that. So I sort of gave it all up. But I did still go to a drama class on a Wednesday night, which was a £5 in Wembley. And I think it was just my mum's way of saying, right, you just do something, just an activity. Just think she wanted something to do on a Wednesday night. She could walk around Asda while I was in the drama class. And they sat in on, Julia Crampsey, the casting director, was sat in the hall one night. And that's how it all came about.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I did my last GCSE on the Wednesday and started there on Thursday.
Whoa!
I know.
I mean,
I
what was
remember
it
my
like doing your
teacher saying to
GCSEs,
me,
though, knowing that that's like...
I didn't care. I was like, this is brilliant. Write what I like. I've still got 9. I am my mum's favourite child.
Are you?
Yeah, it was crazy because I remember getting the call from my mum, and when you were in year 11, you had your own little like green room. And she was like, go to the toilet on my mobile. So I've gone in and she was like, you got the job. Because originally I'd gone for a different part and didn't get it.
Right.
And then they created this, apparently Tony Jordan said to, I think it was Sarah Phelps actually, she's not a Miller, she's a Slater. And then they created Stacey Slater, which was lovely.
Yeah.
Because they were my favourite family. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into EastEnders and be a Miller. I wanted to be a Slater.
I love the idea, though, that all the different families are like, you Millers.
Yeah.
The Slaters stick together.
I don't want to be a Bill. I want to be a Slater.
Oh, because they were fiery
yeah.
and dramatic. And...
Oh, and their ride was such a bang.
Yeah.
And there was all these big personalities, a house full of girls. You know, that's what I came from, a house full of girls. You argue, you throw the clothes, go to get your favourite jeans, your sister's got them on. It's like, it felt like so real to me, that household.
Yeah. Is that what your childhood was like? How many of you were there?
There's 3 girls.
3 girls?
Yeah.
Are you
3
close
girls.
in age?
Well, me and Daisy are 2 years apart, and then Lily came along when I was 13.
Oh, how did that feel?
I loved it.
Did
It's like
you?
having my own doll. I said to my mum, don't worry, I'll walk around the block. I used to take her out in the pram, walk around the block. I'd get up in the night and do the night feeds with my mum. Yeah, we loved it.
I love that.
I know, I've just left my baby with her now. So she's not a baby anymore. She's 22 now, but she's still very much like the baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I loved it.
And it feels like family's always been a really important thing to you.
Yeah, it is. It's everything to me, really. I mean, my mum is amazing, and my nan had 4 children. She had 3 boys and a girl. And she always had people round. We always had Sunday dinner. You know, Christmas was always at my nan's. And my mum has always sort of really kept us girls close together, because my other sister lives in Dubai now, but she lived in Singapore for a long time.
Right.
But I still speak to her every day. You know, I think it would break my mum's heart if we ever fell out.
Yeah.
We've all been really close.
Yeah, I love that. And it also means that you just get the dynamics of what it's like to be in that Slater family where there's loads of women and loads of hormones.
Exactly, and you drive the man in the house mad.
Yeah.
Which we did. We drove my dad absolutely mad. He was grey very early on. Living in a house with 4 women.
Gosh.
I know.
How old were you when you met Matt?
I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
My best friends, who you know, Liv, is married to Paul. So we were like a group of friends. So Matt and Paul were friends, and me and Liv were best friends. And, you know, you just go everywhere with your best friend. And she met Paul, and then he started coming around Paul's, and I thought, he's quite funny, actually. And then I thought, actually, no, he's not funny. Not funny at all. It's just annoying. And then he asked me out, and I was like, all right. I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing an orange velour tracksuit. I had a green one, brown one, an orange one. They were very in then. In fact, I think they've made a comeback. I'm getting old.
So that's so cute that you and Liv like dated
Yeah.
best mates as well. That's really cute.
It is, yeah. And as we've got older, we all sort of like keep in touch, and now our children are friends. It's lovely.
Yeah. Can you remember when you were younger, even before Matt, ever thinking ahead to your future? And did you see yourself as someone who wanted to have a family?
Yeah. It's funny, when you're younger, you think, right, I'll get married when I'm 22. I'll have a baby when I'm 24.
Looking at what your future, it
Yeah.
feels like such a massive jump to actually make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. We sort of look at each other and think, how? We're still here. We've got 3 children. How have we done that? This was mad.
Can you remember you two talking about family life?
Yeah, I think Matt always wanted 3 children and I wanted 4. I've now changed my mind. Just to say, 3 is it. But yeah, I mean, Matt was one of 3, I was one of 3. So I think 3, he was like, nope, 3.
Did you discuss like baby names and stuff before?
We did, yeah. It's funny because I always had a boy's name, always.
Really?
Always, always, always. Thinking I'd never have a boy. We don't have any boys in my family. They're all girls. To the point where when I told my nan she was pregnant, that I was pregnant, she went, oh, I hope it ain't a girl. I'm effing sick of girls, is what she said. And then she hung up. So we did, and actually Dusty's name we came up with. It was so weird. We must have been on the same page on the internet at the same time, and literally I was sitting in the bath, he was sitting on the toilet. Don't know why I'm telling you that bit, but we both said the name at the same time.
No way!
Yeah,
I love things.
It
like
was
that.
really same. I just think that was definitely it then. That was it. It wasn't changing.
How did you, when you first got to the point where you two were like, right, let's actually start thinking about having a family, were there stuff like work and things like that you had to, did you worry about, timing on it or anything like that?
Well, it's funny because we tried for so long to have a baby, and I'd actually left EastEnders and I was doing Our Girl and Bedlam and all loads of different stuff, and you're never near home.
No,
I was never near home. I spent a lot of time in Wales, a lot of time in South Africa, Manchester, and I'm a real home person.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my mum, I can't have a family like this, schlapping all over the country. Matt's there, my house is there, you're all there.
Did it make you almost crave that family even more?
And actually, everything I loved was in Boreham Wood. So I was like, and actually, one of the story team, Dom Treadwell Collins, he then became exec. So I thought, I'm going to go back. I love it there. It's
so
near
good.
home. I go home every night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back. So I texted him and said, can I come back now, please? And he was like, of course you can.
It must be such a nice feeling for people when their characters leave, but it's open-ended. They just, I think there's the old joke about everyone going off to Manchester.
Yes. Or prison, in my case.
You were busy, it was fine.
Goes to prison. But yeah, so and that was when I sort of thought, okay, well, if I'm going to stay here, I'd signed a 2-year contract, now would be the time. And then it obviously took us a really long time to get
Was
Dusty.
that surprising when you first started? I think that switch from kind of going, we're not having children yet, we're not yet, to let's start trying, and then actually that not happening in the way that you thought it would, it can be quite surprising because we're, especially I think when you're together so young. Yeah. I don't know about your parents, but my parents were very much like, don't get pregnant, be careful, be safe. And I think it's so drummed in our heads to make sure that we're careful or that we're thinking about things.
Well, my mum took it to the extreme. She was like, you're going to watch me give birth to your sister. Seriously, and we did.
Really? What was that experience like?
Form of contraception ever. I remember walking into Daisy was 11 and I was 13. Yeah. And my nan was there. My dad's no good because he faints, so he wasn't invited. But we was walking down the corridor and this woman was screaming. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And my mum's really calm. Yeah. And, it's fine. Anyway, she had a water birth. And I watched it. Me and Daisy were at the back. And then when the head come out, we were allowed to come around the front.
What was it like seeing your mum like that?
It was amazing.
Because
it was
I feel like birth
is
such a animalistic thing, or it can be, and you don't think about who else is in the room in terms of what they're seeing in that way. Do you know what I mean? So to see your mum at her rawest, I would say,
it was amazing.
Really?
And it just, I think when you're 13, you don't think about, oh my God, my mum's just done the most amazing thing. Yeah. But I remember thinking, I can't believe I've just seen my sister come into this world. And then I ended up having 2 of my children in the same pool.
No way.
In the same, so it just, and in my head, that was how birth goes.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was 2.5 hours. So I just thought, well, that's how mine's going to go. So I always had this really positive experience of birth.
Yeah.
So I was never scared of giving birth. And I just thought mine's going to go that way. And my first one did.
Yeah.
And then the second one didn't. Mm-hmm. And I tried so desperately to get up to that pool. And she was like, no. I was like, but I am 37 weeks. She said, you're not. You're 36. I was like, no, it's wrong. And she was like, you're not. And then he was out. But in my head, it was always going to go that. I didn't have this horrible experience of hearing about dreadful births or hours and hours of being in labour. I never had that, so I just had this positive experience,
but you
and that
did
was
have
how
this
it's going to go.
Very natural form of contraception in the form that you had seen labour beforehand.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So I guess that also means that when you actually did go, right, this is the time, that then it is that thing of, right, almost you welcome everything that comes with it. Do you know what I mean? You kind of, the look at how the thought of how your future's going to look suddenly changes. Yeah. And then when it doesn't happen straight away, that's a really weird place to be, because
really,
I don't know about you, but until I started trying, I didn't realise that it took a long time, or that there could be fertility issues or anything like that.
No. Well, I just think as well, like we tried for so long and it just didn't happen. So I thought, okay, you know, didn't realise it was such a small window. You just don't really think about that.
Yeah.
And then I started to have miscarriages. And that's where you go, I remember my first one was just terrible. I remember laying on the bed and I was just uncontrollably sobbing. But I had this like weird thing, like, why are you crying? Why are you so sad for something you didn't know? Something that's barely there. And then
looking back, why do you think you were so upset? If you could actually put that into words.
I think actually part of it was the shock of this is actually happening to me. No one spoke about it. I'd never ever had a conversation with anybody about miscarriage. I mean, what was I, 29? No one had ever spoken about it. I didn't really read about it anywhere, or, you know, you sort of heard that word thrown about, you know.
I also think it's one of those things that people don't talk about, or certainly didn't back then when we both had our first. That thing of almost not wanting it to happen. So let's just brush it under the carpet, because if we don't talk about it, then it might not happen.
It might not happen, yeah.
Whereas I think actually maybe if we were more aware, not that it would take that pain away, because I think there is a real heartache when all that what you thought was going to happen, all those dreams, all those hopes suddenly go.
Yeah. And I think that was what made me so sad. I thought, well, I'm not going to have this baby, and I'm not going to put this baby in my lovely pram, and I'm not going to have that picture walking out the hospital with the car seat. I think it's all the things that you associate with having a baby, you know, your first baby, all the things you're excited for, and the first outfit and things like that. It all sort of went vroom.
Did you allow yourself to grieve?
I think I went to work.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure. Well, we drove to the hospital. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. I didn't know. And I got to the hospital and she was like, oh, you're having a miscarriage. And I was like, oh, right, well, why? Or what, you know, what do I do now? I had no idea. My mum didn't have any idea. She'd never had one. You know, it was sort of like, my mum was a bit like, I don't know. I think you just have to, you know, phone the doctor. And you phone the doctor and yeah, it's a miscarriage. And I just remember thinking, I'm Googling it and there's nothing there.
Yeah. Going
to the hospital, you're like, I'll go home, carry on. And it was just a really strange feeling that...
Very true, actually, about
no one could help me.
Yeah.
No one could tell me what to do next. No one was there to say, well, if you need to talk about it, phone this number or speak to this person. It was just like, oh, yeah, you're having a miscarriage.
Because if you're having a miscarriage and it's all going to happen in itself, you don't need a D&C or anything like that. It is that thing if you just go off and you do it. And actually, where is that support in those moments?
There wasn't any. And I think then I had another miscarriage, and that's when I thought, right, I need to be able... I'm in a position where I can talk about this openly.
Yeah.
I'm quite an open person. Let's talk about it. And actually, weirdly, the more I spoke about it, people were just coming at me with, oh, I've had a miscarriage. Oh, I know someone who's had... And all of a sudden, all these people that I'd known for years and years and years had miscarriages.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of thought, okay, well, I've got to try and get this more out there. I don't ever want anyone to feel how I felt in that first instance. So
That thing, isn't it? Even though you know that you can't take away the pain from other people, somehow letting other people know that they're not on their own. Because I do think it's the loneliest grief, because those dreams and hopes, that they're yours. So they're a very personal thing. So I think it is something that you do experience in a very isolated way. However, knowing that there are other people dealing with their own special, grief, I think there is something unifying in that. You were 7 weeks with both of them as well, weren't you?
Yeah, between 7 and 9 weeks.
So falling pregnant the second time, how was that after the first loss?
I've never enjoyed a pregnancy because I always think, oh, it's going to go. Yeah. It's going to go. And I'm lucky enough, you had to have 3 miscarriages, I think, before you could go anywhere. The second miscarriage I had a friend who, because of talking about it, she said, oh, that happened to me. Go and see this man. So I did. And we had I was lucky enough to be able to take it upon myself, pay for it privately. And they tested Matt, they tested me, and nothing came back. But there was still a tiny bit, like the size of a grain of rice, left there. And they kept saying to me, wait another cycle. And it went on for months. And I met this man called Bill Smith. He actually just won an OBE, and he is like the David Attenborough of the womb. He sounds like him. He looks like him. And without this man, I wouldn't have children. And he said to me, emotionally, it's enough. You cannot do this for another month. He could just see the pain of waiting for this tiny bit of whatever was there to go.
What, did they just think it was going to sort of... whatever?
Well, every month it was getting smaller, but it was like 0.000 of a millimetre. Like it was the most tiniest. It was a part of a fetus or part of a whatever was there. And it was every month you'd be thinking, oh, it would be gone now. I can try again. Another month. Oh, no, it's not gone. Can't try again. Another month. You can't try. And it just went on for like 6 months. And he said, it's enough. Go and have a D&C. So I did have that done privately because you couldn't have it done on the NHS. Yeah. And then that was it. We just kept trying. But it was terrifying. It did take away the excitement of being pregnant.
Well, I heard you saying before that your the second pregnancy, you definitely didn't have that excitement. It's almost like you were waiting for the miscarriage to come that time.
Always. All of them have been the same. Even once I was lucky enough to find out what my problem was. And I just basically don't make any progesterone after 7 weeks.
Right.
So I can take progesterone and know that I've got a really good chance of having a successful pregnancy. Even still, knowing that it worked, even with Gypsy, my mum would say, can we buy stuff now? We're like 34 weeks. No, you can't. Didn't want to buy anything. I didn't have anything.
There's certainly a thing. I think once you've gone through a loss, every day feels like an achievement.
Yeah.
Every toilet trip feels like an achievement.
Yeah. You just think, I'm nearly there. It could all go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of, and I still don't understand why the 12-week thing is there, because you can lose a baby at 24 weeks. You can lose a baby at 39 weeks. You can lose a baby at any point. And actually that first 12 weeks is when I needed someone more than ever.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to tell anyone. But really you need to tell everyone so everyone can say to you, it will be fine. Or if it's not, we're here.
You did. You raised a lot of awareness around the impact on depression and suicide rates and stuff like that. What did it give you to actually campaign like that for other people? Did it give you a focus and a drive, knowing that actually if you could talk about it, you'd make change for other people?
Yes, that was it. I didn't want anyone to be in that position that I was when I was sat on my bed Googling what has happened to me. Yeah. What is this? And where do I go from here? And I just thought, I'm in a position, I'm in the public eye. I can reach the public much easier than than, Joe Bloggs down the road. I have to do something. It felt like it's my responsibility to try and just get people to talk about it. I never thought I could change it. I can't change it. But just talk about it, because actually that made the world of difference to me. It opened it up.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
And I didn't want anyone to feel that alone. I also wanted people to think about the other person in the relationship, because Matt didn't know what to say to me. I didn't know what to say to Matt. And there was this awkwardness between us that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
That we didn't know. And also, maybe he's sad. I never thought about that the first time.
Yeah.
And also wanted to make sure that, somebody did check in with the other person. Because it does affect them. It's not in their body, but that was going to be their baby too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think it's an incredible thing when people in the public eye speak about, what they've gone through. And I think it's such it's an incredible thing for people to go on sofas and touch on things, because that is what opens up conversations. And I know that, even when we had Amanda Holden on the second series talking about Theo, her son who was sadly born stillborn at 7 months. And she still talks about him a lot now. And you understand, I think, when you've gone through a loss, how important it is to have those things out there, because otherwise it turns back into a taboo.
Yeah.
It turns back into that thing that we don't talk about. And actually, I think it's so important that we have those conversations out there. Like we have
it's
to.
that saying, isn't it? A problem shared is a problem halved. And it that is true.
Absolutely. How did you feel when you were pregnant for the third time? Did you feel different because you had Bill there sort of helping you?
Yeah, I mean, I drove him mad.
Did you?
I went for a scan every 2 weeks. And he was like, Lacey, I was like 34 weeks. He was like, you really don't have to come now. I was like, no, I do, Bill. I'll see you next week.
Did you feel like you could accept the pregnancy, or were you even like a little bit in denial of it actually happening?
No, I could. I could. The third time round, it was easier. I mean, I still didn't buy anything. I still, I made up these superstitions in my head that became really massive. Yeah. If I bought a pram in the house, then the baby will die. If I, whatever it was. But, I know having a scan every 2 weeks makes you go, you sit there and think, oh my God, he's going to say.
Because also, I think otherwise you're sat at home there going, oh, I feel this, oh, I feel this. So have I felt anything today? You can drive yourself into a bit of a frenzy. Yeah.
Well, I think you get a 12-week scan and then a 20-week scan. That's I would never have coped. I would have driven myself insane. Insane, I would have driven myself. I needed to know there was a heartbeat. Yeah. I needed to know that the baby was growing at the right rate that it should be growing. I needed to know all these things. I needed to know the circumference of its head, and I became quite neurotic about the pregnancy.
That's I mean, it makes total sense, doesn't it?
Because I was so terrified of losing it.
Yeah.
And how I never wanted to go back to that place. Never wanted to feel how I felt then.
Yeah. Did you tell people, and at what point did you tell people that you were pregnant?
I always left it really late, because I just think I would leave it until I couldn't get away with it anymore. Really? And people were like, we knew ages ago. And I was like, thanks for pretending.
Even if things like work, like, I guess you just try and leave it as late as possible.
Yeah. I just used to not tell costume, and I was had really bad morning sickness with Gypsy, and we were filming on location, and one of the lovely costume girls, Beth, I said, can you go and get my maternity Spanx? And she was like, oh, what are these tight? And I was like, yeah. And she sort of looked at me, and I was like, don't tell anyone. And poor Beth, she had to keep this in for ages and ages and ages. And but I was literally falling asleep filming the court scenes for Dino's. For what my head was on the table. The director must have thought, what has got into her? Because I'm not like someone who relaxes. I'm always up and about, and it didn't help that I had neurovirus as well. That I'd caught that from Trilby. So I could sort of put it on that. But I was in a room full of like men who had no idea what was going on. I could tell, like, I was filming with the 6 women, you know, the 6. And we was in the Winnebago, and I was like, and they were like, oh, how are you feeling? And I was like, well, I'm actually pregnant. And they all literally fell to their knees. And I was like, you're the first people I've told. Because I thought they must be thinking now, like, what is she doing? Why does she keep falling asleep everywhere? I wasn't going to get away with it. It was normally you can pop up to a dressing room, but I didn't have a dressing room to hide. I had nowhere to hide. I'm just stuck in the Winnebago with everyone looking at me.
They take care of you after that, though?
Yes, they did. They were amazing.
What do you think stopped you from telling people sooner with each of the pregnancies?
I think I just got scared. I think because then the reason is funny. You don't tell anyone, but then if you do tell someone and you lose it, you've then got to tell them you've lost it, and that's an awkward conversation. And also it makes other people feel awkward, because I became quite comfortable with saying, "Oh, I've had a miscarriage." Yeah. And then you watch that person go, oh, my God, I don't know what to say now.
But it's so hard, because the only way that we can ever break that down is by just having it out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, if that person, not that you want them to hear it enough, but if they can hear it and not kind of
clam up.
Then at some point it becomes that easier thing that's just out there in society that happens, that actually let's talk about it. So it's really hard to, you know, you need it out there.
Yes. Well, it just means it will just help. Yeah. If everybody was okay or comfortable with talking about it, like many other things, it would help so many people.
Absolutely. Did your later 3 pregnancies, did they differ to each other?
No, they were all pretty similar, actually, slightly different shapes. But no, they were quite similar. I mean, a lot of people who know me knew I was pregnant because I would eat sausage and beans every morning. I mean, I don't change. I'm a creature of habit. I've had toast with 2 butters and 2 marmalades for 20 years. And all of a sudden I'm like, can I have 3 sausages, double beans and 2 bread and butter? And I could see Liza, our producer, going, okay.
So did you find out what you were having with each of them?
Only Gypsy.
Oh.
Because Dusty and Trilby are so close together, they're only 17 months, because he ended up being a month early. So I had, you know, two in nappies, 2 lots of bottles, 2 cots, because she was only 17 months when he was born, so she was still in a cot, 2 prams, had 2 of everything. And we recently moved. We moved 2 years ago, and the basement is like mother care. And I just thought, do you know what I could do with, like, getting rid of, I don't need 2 cots. So we did find out, and then I thought, at least I can get rid of most of the stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So falling pregnant with Trilby, was that kind of, had you got to the point where you were like, gosh, if we fall pregnant now, it's going to be, or was it a nice little surprise?
It was a surprise. I remember sitting at Dusty's first birthday, which was just after lockdown, so it was just when you were allowed, like, I don't know, was it 11 people or whatever in the garden? So we had that. That was her party, 11 people in the garden. And I remember sitting at her first birthday and crying. And everyone was like, oh, don't worry, she's only 1. And I'm thinking, no, I'm actually 7 weeks pregnant. Oh, my God.
But a mixture, right? Because it's that thing of knowing how difficult it was for you to get pregnant. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're pregnant without thinking about it, without all that mental, you know, the worry and the anxiety that comes when you're trying. To suddenly find yourself pregnant, it is that.
Well, it's that thing I didn't know it could happen like that. Yeah. You know, because to me that wasn't a thing. Yeah. It was always going to take me ages. Yeah. To fall pregnant, but no. It did. I remember walking down the stairs. I hadn't even got to Matt yet. Matt was in the kitchen. And I came down the stairs and my mum came to get Dusty to drop her to nursery. And I was walking down the stairs with the pregnancy stick and I just turned it round and my mum went, oh. And I was like, I haven't told Matt yet. And my mum ran in the kitchen and went, Lacey's pregnant.
I like this. I'll take this.
I was going to tell him. And Matt being Matt's so laid back. He was like, oh, great. I mean, how he puts up with all my bright ideas, I'll never know. I could say, we've just bought a giraffe. Just coming on Wednesday, and he'd go, okay. I think he must have think, Jesus face. Oh, but yes.
So you felt quite relaxed going towards the births because you'd seen it?
I love giving birth.
Do you?
Terrible pregnant. I think because I spend most of it really anxious and I just find it really difficult because I like to do things. I'm always moving. I don't sit down. I barely watch telly. So I always found the pregnancies quite hard, but I always look forward to giving birth.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll never forget the midwife I had when I had Dusty. Because I got there and the woman was like, you can't get in the pool. And I said to my mum, just put me in the bath. What's she going to do, manhandle me out? And my mum was like, okay, all right, yeah, I'll just put you in the bath. So she put me in the bath and then she was saying I had to get out this midwife. And I thought, I'm not getting out, I'm having a water birth. That was what was in my head. That's what's happening.
What was her reason for not letting you go in it?
The baby was facing the wrong way.
Right, okay.
And I was like, I'm not getting out. I know you know better, but I'm not getting out. And then all of a sudden I heard this northern voice and I was like, oh my God, it's the woman from yesterday. I loved her. And then she had her eyelashes, her big bun. And I was like, oh my God, it's you. And she was like, fill that bath up, she'll turn. And she did. And because of her, I had such a lovely birth. And when I got there, when I went to have Trilby, I asked if she was there and she wasn't. She was off with COVID. And then when I went into labour my midwife appointments, I was talking to the woman about this lovely midwife, and she was like, I know her.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, couldn't you find out her schedule? And she was like, I can get her to message. Yeah, so she messaged Matt on Instagram. She made an Instagram and she messaged Matt and said, these are the days I'm in for the next couple of weeks. So I said to Matt, that's great. That's brilliant. We know. Go into labour on Sunday night. I phoned up. Well, it's funny because my plug came out on the Friday.
Yeah.
Matt was at poker with his friends and I was like, you better come home. You better come home. She was on annual leave. So I'm thinking, it can't happen tonight. It just can't. And it hung on till Sunday and that was her day back. And I phoned and I said, it's Lacey. And she said, oh, hello, love, it's me. And I was like, oh, you're there. She said, what? I said, what time do you finish? And she was like, 8:45 in the morning. I said, oh, we'll be done by then. I'll come in a couple of hours. And I did. And I come in and I had the same lady in the same pool that I had Dusty in. I know. And I just love her. And she comes around for coffee now.
Oh.
I know. Because I just think, to me, she's such a special person. She brought 2 out of the 3 children into this world safely. And I will laugh because she spent the whole birth trying to get into her iPad. She was like, I can't remember the bloody passcode. And I was like, I need to push. And she was like, no, you don't. I said, I do. And she was like, oh, no. She said, I heard her say to my mum, that's not a head. That's, what did she say? I think it's just mucus. And I said, no, it's a head. And she went, all right. Bump, out. She was like, you were right, it was a head.
So did you have your mum with you in every single one?
Not Trilby, because that was COVID.
Oh, of course.
So Matt was there. Matt was allowed in, and then he had to go 2 hours later.
What was that like, giving birth in COVID? Because and also during your pregnancy, things would have changed a lot in terms of guidelines and what each trust was saying.
I wanted a home birth with Trilby, but you couldn't have one because it was COVID.
Right.
You had to be tested when you got into the hospital. Matt was tested. He had to go 2 hours after I'd given birth. And because Trilby was premature, he was taken to ICU. And because Matt had been in the room to say goodbye to him before he left, I couldn't go in for 24 hours.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
it was really strange. We spent sort of 5 days on different floors. And then a little tiny baby had a cough and they weren't sure if it was COVID, so I wasn't allowed in. So I just looked at him through a window.
Oh, my
I know.
gosh.
And it was really strange. And strange for Matt because he wasn't even allowed in the hospital.
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
It was really odd. Really odd. Because I just thought that's my baby, but I can't touch him.
And obviously
he had
you can't get
wires everywhere, and you just want to sit there and be as close as you can. And I wasn't allowed in. It was really odd.
And obviously you can't even have any sort of relationship or proper chats with the nurses that are looking after them in case.
No. It would just they would just sort of put their thumb up and say, it's okay, it's had 3 ounces, you know, just sort of talk through. It was a really weird, and the hospital was so dead. I mean, there was, because normally you'd have visitors and you could sort of hear that buzz, and it was like a ghost town.
So how did you keep yourself occupied during that time? Well,
I actually thought, do you know what, I'm going to go to sleep.
Really?
Because I'm not going to get any sleep. And oh my God, I was right. I thought I might as well go to sleep. And then that way, at least I can go into this when we can leave with some energy. Because I had him at 3 a.m, so I'd lost a whole night's sleep anyway. So I went to sleep. And then after that, I was just sort of sitting there thinking, I don't really know what to do. Like, he's up there. It was sort of really... And then I thought, do I go home? And I thought, I can't go home and leave him here. I can't be in a different building to him. That must be really difficult. There was a lady in there, actually, who had a baby at 24 weeks. And she had a pocket in her hoodie, and the baby would sit in her pocket. He was no bigger than an iPhone. She used to drive there an hour every day, sit with him all day, and then drive back.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And he looked ridiculous in there, Trill, because all these babies were like 3 pounds.
Yeah.
And he was this 6 pound premature. Thank God he was premature, otherwise he could have been a 10 pounder.
You don't really think about that time, though, for those parents and for you to kind of have your child in a special care unit and not even be able to talk to each other, really, for fear of if anyone's got COVID or, you know.
It was really quite lonely, actually. Yeah. And then when you came home, there was no, they come round the next day.
Oh, yeah.
You had to go to them.
Right.
So that was weird. It's like, I've just given birth and then I've got to drive. I've got to get in the car, thankfully I was the second time and had a lovely birth. But if you'd had a C-section or a really difficult birth, or you were a first-time mum or just a scared mum, you know, to get in the car the day after and drive there for someone to check them was odd. And, I remember I've got scales at home because you had to weigh them yourself. They showed you on Zoom how to plot a chart out. You did it all yourself.
Gosh. I can't imagine that as a first-time mum as well.
As a first-time one, I'd have been terrified.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I had sort of a little bit of confidence by the time... Because she was such an easy baby. Yeah. She was whatever it said in a book a baby was going to do. Really? That's what Dusty did. Yeah. And then I got him and I was like, so you're not going to drink milk. You're just going to cry all day. Turned out he was dairy intolerant. And that's why. And once he changed his milk, he was like a different baby. But he didn't do anything that she was going to do. I remember thinking, oh, my God, I stood at the window every day. Because my mum works in a bank, so she still went to work. Right. And I just used to wait at the window for thinking, oh, God, come on, Mum. I don't know what to do. He doesn't stop crying.
That's so hard.
And it was February and it was cold. And by the time you'd put the coat on and then the foot muff thing and then you'd put your coat on and your hat and everything and got out the door, you think, oh, God, he's supposed to have a bottle now. Back in you go. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I ended up just wrapping him up and leaving him on the patio to go to sleep. That's the only way to go to sleep.
I mean, that's what Tom's nan tells us that she used to do with all the kids.
Yeah. That's what my nan used to put him outside.
Yeah.
And I did, and it worked. Yeah. And I think that's what the Swedish do, isn't it? They'd they open all the windows before bed and make it all cool in there, and then...
Well, because there is that thing, isn't there? Your body, it has to actually be around 16 degrees for there's some sort of cortisol levels to go down, which actually means that you get a deeper sleep.
Oh.
And I've heard this. What was Trilby's birth like compared to Dusty and Gypsy? Because obviously they were both water.
Yes. He was... Well, it's funny. I always had this thing. I thought it never made sense to me to lay on your back because you've got to get up a hill.
You know why we do lay on our backs?
Why?
It was a king who wanted to see his son, I think, being born, but didn't want to lower himself to the ground so that he could see. So he wanted to be the first one to see his baby come into the world. So he made the woman, his partner, or the lady, I don't know if they were together, get on her back so that he could see it in a civilised manner. So nothing to do with actual birthing.
No, because it doesn't make sense. You've got to get up that hill.
Yeah. No.
So it always made sense to sort of
be much better.
Gravity.
Yeah.
Give us a hand.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought, don't sit down. If I keep moving, then surely they've got to move. So they'll just come down quicker. So I marched, and they had me strapped up to the machines. They were checking his bits and bobs and whatever. And I just marched on the spot, and I thought, well, this will make him come quicker.
Had your water broke?
Yeah, with Trilby, I went to go to bed and it went poosh.
So you knew you were in labour, but you knew you was only 36
I thought that only happened in movies. I didn't realise it was like that much water.
I've never had a proper gush like that.
Oh my God, it's a lot. Like
Really?
You need to get a mop. Yeah, it's like literally like a bottle, a litre bottle. It was crazy. And I remember going to bed thinking, oh no, I'm not tonight, I'm so tired. And then I laid in the bed and I thought, oh, I don't want to have a dry birth. That sounds awful. I better phone them.
A dry birth.
I just thought I should go. Really, I should phone the hospital. And so I just kept marching, and I said I need to push now, and that was it. And then I pushed, and he came out. It's definitely less painful in the water.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my first wasn't in water. The other two were in water. I'd agree with that.
Yeah. It is less painful. And I just think you're weightless.
So you were right on the whole dry birth thing.
Yeah.
A wet birth is much better.
Definitely.
Preferred, yeah. Did you end up being on your back? Or...
No, on my knees, yeah. But I remember them saying it's a boy, and I was like, huh? No.
It must have been so weird for you.
Can you check again? And they said it's definitely a boy, and I was thinking, oh God, a boy? What do you do with a boy? Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God. My nan was over the moon, as you can imagine. And he, to this day, is her favourite. She has no qualms about telling everyone. But yeah, no. I'm lucky because I have really quick births. So I can sit here and bang on about how lovely it is to give birth. They were quick.
But you also had a really positive outlook on birth before you even, before you were even pregnant, before you even thinking about it.
And I think, especially when I had Gypsy, I thought, right, I've done this before. I'm in the same position I was in. I'm on my knees. I'm in the water. So, and I remember saying, she said to me, just relax your shoulders. And I thought, okay, relax your shoulders, relax. And when I did, weirdly, I could feel her moving down. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, right, if I just relax, she'll come out quicker.
So you didn't do any hypnobirthing or anything like that?
No, I was working. I didn't have time for that, and I hate reading, so I didn't read a book. I just thought, I know what to do. My mum did it. I'll do what my mum did. They're all fine.
But I guess it is that thing, though. If you say about books and stuff, have we turned something that is super, extremely natural and, our bodies are designed to do, have we turned it into an academic subject by having courses and books and things like that? Whereas actually, to a certain extent, you should just trust your body and breathe so it can do what it does.
Maybe. Listen, I have my mum. I can phone my mum and say, oh my God, there's a rash. What is it? Yeah. Put a glass on it, nothing. Okay, thanks, bye. Not everybody has that. Yeah. Not everybody has seen what I've seen. Not everybody had a little sister at 13. Mm-hmm. I'd already changed the nappies and, I knew sort of what to do.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of you that you have to follow your gut.
Yeah.
And then, my sister has to follow a book. She has to.
Really?
For weaning, for sleeping. She can't just go with the flow.
Sometimes it's a little bit of extra comfort, isn't it?
It is.
And you take the guidelines and you kind of fly in your own way.
Exactly. And that's how she does it. And I just sort of think, well, let's hope for the best. I'm like that with life in general. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about work because you did work throughout your pregnancies. You like to stay at work for as long as possible.
Yeah. Because I just think it's actually harder being at home.
Yeah.
If you're at home, I've got to bend down, pick all the LOL dolls up from the floor and the Lego and,
if you're at work, you don't have to bend down to do any of that stuff.
You can sit down and your tea's hot and you can go to the toilet on your own. So actually, it's easier to someone gets you a chair. At home, they don't even look at you. They don't care. Mum. So I just thought I'll stay there as long as possible.
Nice. Was there lots of stuff to help you hide your bump in scenes?
There was the first 2 pregnancies they did, and then I think by the third one they just gave up. Because obviously we had the live, so it was never going to match. So I just feel like I saw a couple of bits and I thought, well, I clearly look pregnant on the telly. They'd given up. And I remember saying to one director, I was wearing a red kimono. And I said, Miguel, you can see my bump. And he was like, you're pregnant? I was like 7 months pregnant. He was like, I didn't know. And I was like, oh well. But no, it went out. And I think we were just sort of turning a blind eye to it come the third time.
So with those 2, the first 2, how long did you have off the other side?
When I had Dusty, I took 9 months, and that ended up being a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then I think we went into lockdown when she was about...
So you would have been pregnant when you went back?
I went back pregnant. I know. Imagine that phone call. I phoned Kate Oates and I was like, I don't really know how to say this. And she was like, don't worry, I know what you're going to say. And she was lovely. But I felt like I was taking the mick if I took too long off. So
really?
I had Trilby in the February and I went back in the August. What's that? Well, I hadn't actually. I had one more week of work and I remember filming on the Tuesday and I said to the director...
Because obviously you went into... Yeah, okay.
I said, Rich, you're mad leaving my stuff till Friday. And he was like, I know. I said, I'm having this baby tonight. He was so low. I knew he was coming. You know when you just know? Like I felt like he was so low. I said, he'll come tonight. And he was like, yeah. Lo and behold, he did come on Tuesday. So I text Richard after I'd given birth. I said, don't worry, I'll be in next week just to film those last few scenes. So I went in for a morning just to finish.
What was that like?
Having
2 little...
That was mad.
2 under 17 months, you're still, you've given birth.
I know, but I'd had that lovely sleep because I couldn't go.
Well, I guess in some ways, did it keep your mind occupied?
Well, yes, because I have got a village around me.
I know you do, but there's also the physical and the emotional impact. And it was just a morning,
and it was strange.
Yeah.
I have to say, it was strange. When I went back with Gypsy, it was easier. There was it was... she was easy.
Yeah.
She is an easy baby. I'll regret saying that at some point. Mm-hmm. As it stands today, she's been easy. But it was only a morning where this time I had a purpose.
Well, I
had a
wonder
reason.
If, because with the other 2, I know that you had to go back after Trilby because of that scene, but that was something that you hadn't sort of pre-planned, right?
No.
That was just something that happened.
And that was my choice. I wanted to make sure that story was finished properly.
Yeah, because then you think about everyone else's craft and
exactly,
all that stuff. But with Gypsy, you stepped away knowing that you were going to be back when your baby was 4 weeks old or, around.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did it feel like a pressure knowing that you had to be back? Filming stuff knowing the next time you film the next bit of this? Or no, after, because you would have filmed bits that happened after the live.
Yeah.
What was that like mentally kind of going... or having a place to be, but also knowing that you were filming things that were going to happen either side of you giving birth?
It was weird because I had gone up to my boss to tell him I was pregnant. And we knew it was the 40th. We didn't know what it was about. So I said, I'm pregnant. And he sort of went a bit green. And I thought, that's a funny reaction.
It's not yours. Don't worry about it.
Didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay. I was like, but listen, whatever you're doing for the live, I want to be a part of it. I missed the last one and I missed the one before that. So I was like, I loved doing the 25th. I really enjoyed it. I said, I want to be a part of it. Thinking, I had an inkling that there was going to be a wedding and I thought I'll be in the Vic.
Yeah.
Just be in the background of that. So I was like, I want to be in it. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. I want to be in it. It's the end of February.
Yeah.
If it's live, I'll be fine. If not, we would have shot it before anyway. And at that point, I don't think they decided whether it was going to be live or not. So he was like, I'll let you know. I'll
Do you
let
think
you
they
know.
already knew the sort of storyline that they were?
I think they did, which was why he went a bit green.
Which also means, though, that certainly the live and then the episodes that you would have filmed while pregnant that would go out afterwards, that's a very emotional journey for your character to be on and for you to be on whilst either heavily pregnant or just giving birth.
It was hard because obviously me and James are really close. We're like brother and sister. So I didn't see that coming. So it was, I felt, filming all the stuff after the live, which we shot before the live. I didn't really, I felt like he had died. It was a really odd feeling.
But I guess that's a double thing as well, right? Because you're knowing that that's saying goodbye to your partnership on the show.
Yeah.
So there is a grieving process within that.
It was hard. It was like, every tear that came out my eye was a genuine sadness. In fact, I didn't rehearse any of that.
Really?
I physically couldn't speak. I actually, the day after James phoned me to say that that they'd decided that that's between them that's what was going to happen to Martin, I was like beside myself.
Really?
I went into work the next day and said, do I need to be here? I couldn't speak. I couldn't believe that he wanted to go that way and that they're letting him go that way. So I wasn't acting.
Yeah.
It was genuine. I was genuinely sad. I couldn't rehearse because I just didn't, I couldn't do it. I couldn't speak. I could barely say the lines. It was weird because I spent, I guess, the end of my pregnancy really sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess also your hormones are all over the place as well. So I don't know. It's an odd thing to do. Now I look back, it's a really strange thing to do.
But I think that is also acting.
It's an odd job anyway, isn't it? You have to go to places, and I don't really know how to do it unless I go there.
Yeah.
And I guess I was there without wanting to be there. I was already there. I mean, me and James spent a long time sort of not even being able to look at each other. I did scenes where I didn't even look at him.
No.
And I thought, I'm going to cry. I cried from, September onwards.
Did it feel quite surreal then coming back after Gypsy was born and filming that live episode and knowing that, you've filmed all the bit that comes afterwards. You've almost said your goodbye, but this is the
it's funny because I'd sort of decided in my head that it wasn't happening. So I was that was my coping mechanism, is it's not happening. And then come the live, I was in this amazing baby bubble.
Yeah.
I was at home. I'm, not often at home. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
And I was loving it. And then I got to go back and do this thing that I don't want to do because I don't want to say goodbye, that I so wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
And it was weird, and it's funny because every single time I have said that scene, I haven't been able to, I haven't been able to control my emotion.
Really?
And then on the night, it was nothing came.
Really?
It was so strange. It was like my body was in denial.
Locked it. Yeah.
And like, this is not the last time you two are doing this scene together. It's not the last time. Nothing came. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Amazing,
felt
like that.
Nothing.
Yeah, I finished a show last week, and some of my castmates they gave me this amazing book that they'd made, and they were crying giving it to me. And they gave it to me on the Saturday. I was dry. And usually I would have wept. I took until the Monday to sit and read it, and then I was properly sobbing. I had a point yesterday where I clung to the greenhouse wall and had a proper sob. Like, it just sits with you. But I do think your body goes into survival mode with things like that.
100%.
Even with acting where you kind of got to draw and things, it was just like nuts. So I totally understand that.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
How can I be? I mean, my heart hurt. That's how sad I was the whole week rehearsing that. And then come the night, I knew all the lines.
Yeah.
don't know how, with that brain, that baby brain, I don't know how. I kept thinking, just don't muck it up, Lacey. It's this last ever scene. Don't muck it up. Don't muck it up. And I didn't, but I was numb.
Yeah.
And I was never I've never read that scene without crying, let alone said it out loud.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing.
So after live, how has it been the last 11 weeks? Are you back in working? What is that balance?
So
like now?
I've just finished tying up all the sort of loose ends, and now I've got a nice chunk of time off, which is lovely. So I'm off with the kids for Easter and just little things like I want to, I can go and read a book to his class at pickup.
Yeah.
Whereas because of the way the schedule works there, you can't always guarantee you're going to make it anywhere. Sports day, nativities, whatever. So it's been nice to be able to say, yes, I will be there to read that book.
Yeah.
And I did get laughed at by a load of 4-year-olds.
Did you?
It was funny. The teacher said, can you bring Gypsy in? We're learning about babies. And I thought, since when has show and tell been with actual real things? Normally don't just take a doll. Anyway, she did cry. So out she went. But yeah, it's been really nice to be at home because obviously we moved and... I've dreamt of this house my whole life.
Well, talk to me about the move because as a family now, you've said you're on a farm.
Yes, we've got a little farm.
Growing up, did you have like green spaces around you, or was that something that you always wanted?
No, I mean we always had a garden, and my sister was a real animal person, and I was a bit like, ugh. I like dogs, but I wasn't interested. They were into horses, both my sisters, and I just wasn't. Yeah. I mean, we used to pick her up and put her in a bin bag in the boot because she stunk. I was like, she's not sitting in the front. She stinks. And now I'm out there with my straw and mucking out my chickens.
Yeah.
And
so has motherhood been what you thought it would be?
It's better.
Really?
Yeah, it's better. It's amazing watching these tiny little people turn into small versions of you. And then you look and think, oh, my God, I say that.
All your best and your worst bits.
Yes.
It's a real big reflection, yeah.
Yes. And they are like sponges and it fascinates me. I love watching them grow as much as I don't want them to grow. I don't want them to get bigger because they're just lovely. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're hard work, but they're lovely.
Yeah.
And it's chaos, but the best possible chaos. I love it. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
Even if they stay at my mum's, we're like, we should go out for dinner, but can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Might as well go to bed.
but sleep. It's fine. Go to sleep knowing you're not going to have to get up. Lacey, if you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to and what would you say?
I would probably write it to my mum.
Would you?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would just, I guess, let her know how much she has taught me. Even now, I'm 37 now, and she's still... I just think she's amazing. She's my favourite person in the whole world.
Really?
Yeah. I love her. She loves me. She loves my children like I love my children. And I just think that's amazing. Yeah. How you can do that.
I love that so much.
She just loved everything she has taught me. Everything I know has come from her. Her work ethic, how she raised us. I've tried to become a mini version of my mum.
Oh.
She's just much kinder. She's lovely, my mum.
And we end the podcast with you completing 3 sentences. The first one is being a mum means.
It means, what does it mean, being a mum? Well, it means everything. I mean, I feel like I didn't realise what my purpose was, and now I have them. Yeah. I now know what it was.
Since having children, I
learned to take the small moments that you get, because they are golden.
They are golden. They are golden.
They really are.
We were saying earlier about 3 is the magic number. It totally is. but it's those pockets where everything falls into place that makes it so wonderful.
But how wonderful are those little pockets?
Yeah.
Before, you just think, oh, it's an hour. Now it's an hour. Oh, my God, it's a whole hour. And it's nice because it's actually made me appreciate me a little bit more.
Really?
Because I think in that hour, I'm going to do something for me.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't do that
Yeah.
if I didn't have them.
Yeah.
I'd be doing something for someone else.
Yeah. Absolutely. And finally, I'm happy when?
I'm happy when I'm at home and my children are rolling in mud and finding worms and on their bikes. That's the whole point of living there.
Yeah, exactly
It's
that.
for them to be hanging out of trees, rolling around in mud.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the chaos of
That's
it.
what they should be doing.
Lacey, thank you so much.
Thank
I've
you for
loved
having
this.
me. I waffle on and on and on.
No,
Sorry.
you don't waffle at all.
Thank
at all,
you.
at all, at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.